Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to share with you the key principles used for the planning of Singapore, and with a little bit of focus on the way we create urban centers. Just mark the words centers and not center. There are many centers. So let me begin. First of all, I'm now a kind of practicing architect and planner, but also the chairman of the Center for Liveable City. And the perspective I'm coming from is from the fact that I was the chief planner of Singapore, preparing the revised master plan in 1991. And just a little bit of advertisement. The Center for Liveable City is created by the Singapore government under the Ministry of National Development and the Ministry of Environment. So every 2 years we have the World City Summit. The next one is in June 2014, and invite all of you to go. It's now becoming quite a major event worldwide. And also we give Lee Kuan Yew World City Award. And every year we conduct a Mayor's Forum. So I'm going to talk to you in these aspects. And unfortunately today, given the short time, I did not include any pictures, so it's all diagrams and words. So I hope many of you have been to Singapore and you know what I'm talking about. So first of all, comparing Tokyo and Singapore. Tokyo, Greater Tokyo, and then in terms of population, it's very significant. Tokyo is nearly 37 million people, and Singapore is only 5 million. But in terms of density, because we are very small, so our density is rather high. And it's not something we're proud of, it's something we have no choice but to do. And so we have to make a good environment out of the high density. Now, the challenges of modern cities would be the cities are becoming bigger, denser, buildings are taller, speed of development is faster. And also because of factories and cars, we have pollution issues, traffic jams, and strong pressure for consumerism. That means try to do something exciting, attractive, but not necessarily logical. And also life in the city is complicated and more demanding. The question is, as a planner, how do we deal with those issues? And I'm just giving you some suggestion of some of the principles used in Singapore. So let's first see the anatomy of a city, the way that I see the city. I'm trying to look at it in these four areas: family of cities, city prototype, what actually is the key component of the city, and the rural-urban, the relation between the city and the countryside, and also the structure of commercial centers. In my view, when we do any planning, the starting point is to look at the projected population size, not today's population size, but the future population size. So I think one can roughly say that if you have 2 to 3 million people, it becomes a city. But less than that, it would be only a region within the city or a new town within a region. And to help you understand this, a city is like a grown-up man who can get married and then work and so on, support himself, no longer getting support of income from allowance from the parents. But the youth, the teen, and the children depend on the adult, on the grown-up, because the population size is not big enough to make it self-sufficient. It has to depend on the cities to provide the facilities and amenities. So basically, there are different degrees of independence, and therefore, when you plan a city, you have to first know what is the population size, and then try to make the necessary provisions, not too little and also not too much. So the diagram of a city, if this is a city, say for 2 million or 3 million or even 4 million people, so the way I see the city is divided into different regions. And then you have the green belts around the regions, so that it's always in close proximity with nature. And that's very important. The fact that Singapore is often referred to as a garden city is because we put green belts around the different elements of the cities. So it looks, the built area doesn't look too dry or too harsh. Then below the regions, you have new towns, and then you have industrial area, and generally separate from the new towns, but you have clean industries inside the new towns. Then, of course, below the new towns, you have neighborhoods. Below neighborhoods, you have precincts. Earlier on, Professor Cho talked about the importance of neighborhoods. I think, fortunately, we did consider that. And then you have a series of the red dots, which are the centers, the commercial centers, starting with the CBD. Then the larger red dots are the more important centers. So one of the reasons that the central area traffic is not too bad is because we decentralize the commercial centers and bring the commercial centers closer to the homes of the people. And of course, you connect all the centers with the metro lines, so that Singapore basically is a transit-oriented city. The dependency on cars is relatively low. And of course, in Singapore, that was the end of the story. But in other cities where you have the rural areas, maybe sometimes some area outside your city is big enough to be like a region. Or some areas are big enough only as a new towns. So how do you deal with the rural areas depends again on the population sizes. And I have to face this problem very often when I provide planning consultancy to other countries, because they have to relate, they have rural areas, and in Singapore we don't have to deal with that problem. So basically, the status of each location is by and large decided by the population size. Now, just now you saw in the diagram in Singapore, we had many different types of commercial centers, because since the subject of today's discussion is about the urban centers. So that means for the city, you have the central business district. Then it goes down to regional center, town center, neighborhood centers. But what one has to remember is that when you're doing the town center, it has to incorporate the function of a neighborhood center. When you do the regional center, you have to incorporate the function of neighborhood center and town center. When you do a CBD, you have to incorporate all the previous ones, because there are people who live around CBDs who need the function of neighborhood centers. So this is the way we plan our city. So in a kind of short summary is that the different centers for different cells, just now I mentioned the region, the new towns, the neighborhood, they are like the cells to a city. It's just like human bodies, you also have cells to the whole body. It consists of different cells to make up the whole body. So different centers, we have different cells, and different cells has different population sizes, and therefore the provision in the centers depends on the population sizes. Now, what I said earlier was very abstract, so I try to show how this was applied in Singapore. And they're all in map form. My biggest regret today is I forgot to show you some pictures, but you just have to use your imagination. So first of all, we have to look at the urban structure. When you plan the city, how do you want to structure the whole city? Then in the master plan of a city, there are many layers. You have to look at the conservation of historical buildings, conservation, protection of nature, ecology. Then you have the cells, organs, grids, towns. Cells means the different sizes of the community units. It can be a region, can be a town, could be a neighborhood. And organs, a city will have major organs like the airport, seaport, heavy industries, train stations, and so on. Like the human body, you have the lung, you have the heart, you have the liver, and so on. Where do you place them so that they function best and also with minimum negative impact to the quality of life of the cities? So these are the considerations. And after you go through those analyses, and of course you also have to think about infrastructure, like water, electricity, and so on. I will not show you the drawing for infrastructure, or amenities like universities, schools, and so on. Just show you the ones, heritage, and the ones that you are less familiar, because I'm introducing terms that is normally not used in the planning circle. Then after you put them all together, then we created the concept plan. From the concept plan, then we go into greater details. We'll create a master plan of Singapore. And finally, I'll just show you one more time how we organize our urban cores. That means the different hierarchy of commercial centers. So this is the structure for the city. And it is transit-oriented because the blue line and the red lines are metro lines. And they cross, where they cross each other, these are the major commercial centers. So it makes it very easy for people to go to a commercial center without using cars. And the major one is in the south. This is in blue color. In Singapore, we use blue for commercial. And the second major one would be on the extreme outer layers, because we would like our metro line to be full of passengers, either coming to the city or going out of the city. So you make other attraction on the extreme areas of the island, and that's the way it was planned. And so let me show you the layers. So first of all, we show the so-called historical area. Okay, then the natural area, protection natural area, the urban organ, the metro lines, the expressways, the new towns, and so on. So they are all planned carefully so that they don't fight with each other, they don't conflict with each other. And therefore, when you see a city, it looks more neat and tidy, more harmonious. And this is the way, for example, at the extreme right is the airport. And why we put the airport there? Obviously, you can have a very large airport in Singapore, and citizens don't normally feel it because the airport noise is not heard by most of the people. At the extreme southwest, we have the petrochemical islands and so on. So in the event of an explosion, it will not affect the lives of the people on the main island. So this is the way we plan our city. And on the basis of this, then we created the master plan of Singapore. And this is the one that I conducted in 1991. And, but this is the updated one. I left in 1992. But although it looks a little bit different, but basically we use the same principle. There's a continuation of using the same principles to plan our city. Now, since we talk about the urban core, I just pay some special attention. The white lines is the central region. Okay, just now I mentioned that we actually divided Singapore into 5 regions. So each region would have approximately 1 million people. It's like a small town. So this is the central region. And the black line is the central city. Okay, it's like this. And actually, part of that is reclaimed land, we reclaim from the sea. But within that, we have what we call the expressway box. That means people from all over the island can come to this area and reach the expressway box by expressways without going through the local road. So we separated the fast traffic from the slow traffic. And within the express box, we create our central business district. So it is a kind of highly rational plan, but I want to just qualify by saying that while we try to make it very, very rational, but we also, every time, at every step of the way, we try to think about how would the city look with this kind of plan. So while we're trying to be rational, we also try to be artistic. You have to look at both things at the same time. Okay, so this is the master plan of the Central Business District. This is the model. The model is basically on the left side. But at the same time, those red roof buildings that you see, they are historical buildings. And despite the fact that they are next to extremely high land price area, they are going to be protected and preserved perpetually. They are not allowed to be torn down. So it's very important for us to plan for the long-term future. When I did the master plan, we planned for 100 years, and so that you have a lot of room for expansion. And by doing so, it was easy for me to convince my minister at that time, said, don't worry about pulling down the historical areas. I have enough land for new development, and that gave him comfort to keep the historical buildings. And also by having many centers, CBD, the regional center, town centers, so you can develop this central business district not in a hurry. You see, this is from the same angle, from 1974 to 2007, and we are still adding buildings to the central business district. And that makes the buildings more interesting. That means, across the decades, of course, the architectural styles change, the commercial demand change. So it makes a center. But the fact that we develop a central business district very slowly does not mean that our commercial centers, our commercial development is very slow, because we're also developing commercial centers in the regional centers, in the town centers, in the neighborhood centers. So just to recapitulate, this is the central business. So the black lines are the regions. Each region has a population of about 1 million people. Central business district, and these are the regional centers. And in between, we have the sub-regional centers. So that, and all these centers are served by metro lines, sometimes served by 2 metro lines. So just a short summary. The fact that we have so many centers means that the total commercial development is quite fast, but each center doesn't have to rush. So we can look at each center, the planning and design of it carefully so that they are properly developed. Now, but so far I'm talking about Singapore, but I'm mindful of the fact that in Asia, we have many very large cities, the mega cities. So I have to deal with megacities also in China, like Qingdao and Guangzhou and some others. So when they ask me for advice, I say, well, perhaps one way to deal with it is to, just now I said a city is like a grown-up person, an adult. But megacities, in my mind, can be treated like a family of cities. That means, for example, Shanghai, to my mind, is not one city. It's maybe 5 or 6 cities of 3 to 4 million each. In fact, right now, I'm doing one part of Shanghai as independent cities, so that people can live in that area with minimum need to travel to the central part of Shanghai. And so I call them Constellation City. I will see the diagram shortly. But there are bigger areas, for example, like Pearl River Delta in China. I'll show you, the population size is like projected to be like 30, 40 million people. How do you deal with a big region like this? So just to recap, just now I'll show you that this is so you can extend the city into Constellation City and Urban Milky Way. These are the terms I use, and I'll explain, you see why I use those terms. So because the Constellation City may be 20 million people, but beyond 20 million people, it's really a kind of almost like a Milky Way with lots of planets and moons and stars on the land. Okay, again, this is, you saw this earlier, but for Constellation Cities, it's like a adult, and for Urban Milky Way, it's like a clan, okay? And so Constellation City can be seen as a problem, a megacity, but if you plan it well, I think it actually gives you more advantages than a city because there are more talents concentrated. So to put it visually, a town, okay, then a city, Constellation City is to divide a city into, a mega city into several cities. And then the Urban Milky Way is to have a combination of Constellation City or single cities and so on. So this diagram on the extreme right is Pearl River Delta, okay. And what right do I have in using the word Urban Milky Way? Let me explain to you. Because this is how it looks, the Pearl River Delta, that's how it looks at night from a satellite. And compare this with the Milky Way in the sky, they look almost the same. So this is, the message here is that you can have a lot of population together, but you can subdivide them into quite independent, self-sufficient small units, and yet they can interact with each other. And in between each planet, you have green belts and so on, and therefore you're never too far away from nature. And also within each planet, you have your own metro line, so you don't have too high a concentration of people or traffic into your major centers. So now just in case you still are not convinced, you see Australia, with such a big size, has, you count the dots, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, actually 8 cities. Population size 23 million. Qingdao, okay, nearly 9 million. It can be a Constellation City of, say, 5 cities inside. And Tokyo, with 13 million, well, it doesn't have to be one city. It can be several cities inside that. Or Australia again, compare with Pearl River Delta, projected 63 million. in that area on the same scale. So there's nothing wrong in dividing the Pearl River Delta into X number of cities. Because if Australia can function well with so many cities, what's wrong with dividing Pearl River Delta in X number? Or Tokyo, 36 million. You divide it up, and each city can function on its own with minimal dependency on central Tokyo. So this is the final conclusion, is that I think the strategy for innovative urban core should not be, we should not look at just the urban core, we should look at the bigger picture, the whole city structure. So first, we have to tame the urban giantism. So we probably have to consider Constellation City or urban Milky Way to just don't let it grow beyond a manageable size. I think one of the problems with Beijing is that the Chinese describe Beijing as a city, it's like a spreading pancake. The pancake just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's treated as one city, and you can't solve the problem. The traffic jam is getting worse and worse, and the pollution is getting worse and worse. So I think it's important as well in Asia to think about how to tame the urban giantism. The second issue is that within each city, we may want to break it down into cells, organs, and so on, so that you're always very close to the facilities that you want to have in your daily life, and also very close to nature. And also, we have to think in terms of a variety of commercial centers so that they serve people. They serve people conveniently, so people can get their satisfaction without going on long distance. And of course, the advantage of this is that you save energy, and also you save time, and therefore you spend more time at home with your family, and therefore there are many advantages in the decentralization. So, and of course, I've been kind of super rational about this thing. I feel that we should also think in terms of creative urban design, well-placed landmarks, not landmarks everywhere, but selectively. And so in conclusion, I think what we want is innovation, not novelty. And we need innovation at every step of the way of creating the city. Thank you.